it's Law and welcome back to my channel. Today we're back in The Sims 4 and I am building my entry for the medieval collab, which you can find on Instagram. So back in, I want to say February, like early February, I received a message from the Instagram account belonging to Amnesia, I think that's how you pronounce her name. But basically she DM'd me and she wanted to know if I would consider joining her medieval collab. And of course I said yes. So for those of you who don't know me, I am such a history buff. I love history, I love like the Tudors, I love the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Victorians. I love everything to do with history. And so I immediately jumped at this collaboration, and basically this is my build. So the idea of the collaboration was to basically create any kind of build you wanted, whether that was a community lot or a residential lot or a room build or anything at all, but it had to be in the style of medieval. So I decided to go for a sort of medieval tavern, and that's probably because I couldn't quite deal with having to build like a castle or anything that was like super big. I know some of the people who are in the same collab as me, they designed like a whole medieval village, and I mean that is just incredible. And if you are on Instagram, I would totally recommend that you check out the hashtag medieval collab, because there are some fantastic entries on that hashtag, like just so amazing. Like I could never. But basically this unfortunately kind of coincided with my really bad builder's block stage, which I spoke about in my last upload. But basically I started this in February when I was invited to join the collab, and then I basically left it for ages, and I mean like months. So this went live on the 30th of April and I basically left it until the 30th of April, like no joke. I completely forgot that this was a thing, and then I started seeing all of these messages on the Discord group saying like, oh, when can we post? And I'm so excited, it's only like today's the day. And I was like, oh no. So you will see very shortly that the game footage just completely changes. So when I started building this, it was summer, and then when I continued building it, it was like autumn. So apologies for that crazy change in the scenery that you see before you. But yeah, I completely forgot that I said that I would join this collaboration, and then I just got hit with that horrible bout of builder's block and just never quite, yeah, I just never really recovered. So I did kind of rush this build, and it's annoying. I mean, I would definitely say check out the other entries to the collab, because they're so much better than mine. But anyway, I recorded it, so I figured I may as well record the end of it. And yeah, so you'll have to let me know what you think of this video in the comments down below. So a little bit about this build. It is a tavern, and my inspiration for it came from some pictures that I found online. And basically it's not actually based on anything real, but more like those little models that people make. I love those models. I just think they're so awesome. Like if I had the time and the patience and the skill, like I would definitely be a model kind of person. I just think they're so awesome, and I love when they come together, and I love it. So this is based on an image that I found on Pinterest. So if I can find it, I'll try and link it on I'll try and put it on the screen, but don't hold your breath. I am useless at remembering where I found inspiration pics. It's something that I really need to work on. But I did use quite a bit of tool mod in this build, as you can see there. So in the reference picture, there was a drain that came out of the side of the build, and it had like all this murky sewage coming out of it, and so I decided to replicate that in this build. So I took one of the, I think it's like one of those like drains that go inside of the pool, and it makes it like the bubbles come out of it. I have no idea what they're called, like a spa kind of thing, I don't know. But basically I rotated that, and I then placed down some of the dirty puddles that came with, I want to say Strangerville, but it could have been another pack. I am so hopeless at remembering which items come from which packs. Like, I have the utmost respect for like my friend Sue at Nerdy Panda on Instagram, because she is literally an encyclopedia when it comes to remembering which objects come from which packs. Like, I could never. My brain is just not big enough, honestly. Nah. It would never happen. But basically, yeah, I put that down, and I had a bit of trouble placing it because it kept wanting to snap to the foundation height, but eventually I got it to stick in the right place, and I think it looks pretty cool. And of course, the only problem was when I went into live mode to get my screenshots, all these bubbles started appearing sideways in the build, so I did have to like delete it just to take some screenshots. If you do decide to download this and put it in your game and play in it, then I would advise that you get rid of the drain, because it is a little weird having bubbles floating through the air. Like, it was weird. Also, what was really fun was there looked like on the reference picture that there was some kind of like basement or like cellar. And so I decided to replicate that, just sizing down a door that came with the, I think it was Seasons pack, and I used a horseshoe to just sort of make it look like it was a handle, and I think it looked pretty cool. It didn't look exactly the same as the reference picture, but I guess, you know, it was close enough. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Now I'm just going around and doing a bit of landscaping, and I used so much of the debug objects in the landscaping of this build. I just find that it looks the same as the surrounding areas. I took inspiration from the landscaping that's in the world. This is actually built in Windenburg. I can't remember the name of the lot, but it's like where all of the more Tudor kind of builds are in the world. It's like my favorite part of Windenburg to build in because the lighting is just gorgeous. And I basically, yeah, took inspiration from the surrounding area and just brought it into this build, so it kind of looked like it belongs a bit better and just flows well, and it just, you know, sort of ties everything together. And now I'm just putting down some terrain paint around this pathway. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves in this game, is that like none of the flooring objects or flooring options that we have match the world. Like, I just find it so incredibly frustrating, especially in builds where they have a path that goes right up to the lot edge, and then you can't, like, there's no option to use the same swatch. I just find it incredibly frustrating. Like, if that's one thing I could ask the gurus for, I would say, please, can you give us swatches or terrain paint that matches the worlds that you can build in. I don't understand what they were thinking when they put this together. Like, it's, anyway. So now I'm just building this little pond area, and I basically wanted this to feel as sort of remote and as overgrown and just completely neglected as possible. I feel like in any sort of medieval film or TV show that I've seen, like, nothing is manicured when it comes to landscaping. Everything is just rural and like muddy and dirty and like overgrown, and so I really tried to bring that into this build as well. And again, just using loads of the landscaping items that's in the debug menu. Speaking of that, so I would highly recommend, if you are on a PC and your PC can download mods and your game can run mods, I would definitely download Twisted Mexie's Better by Debug mod, because it just saves so much time when you are building and landscaping, especially landscaping, because basically it will group all of the bushes and trees and plants into a manageable category, so that you can easily pull out all of the trees and bushes and flowers that you need for your build. It's such a time saver and I just absolutely love it. Plus he's gone and named all of the objects, so you can now like type in rocks and all of the rocks will appear. You can type in trees, all the trees will appear. You get the picture. Like, it's just so easy. And you may have seen there that I'm just playing around with the tool mod and the columns. So when I was building this, I actually found out that if you want to lower the columns in your game, you can do that using the tool mod. So basically what you do is that you open the tool mod in build mode and you can select the columns, and then you can type in the scale number and it'll scale down. It also scales up, and if you rotate them, sometimes depending on the column that you're using, it will actually become thinner as well. So I feel like for a couple of the columns that are quite chunky, that's something that's really cool to know. I did actually stream with the Something Simlish girls a few weeks ago, and I did kind of talk about this very briefly, and the Something Simlish team will be coming out with some tutorials using Tool very soon, and that's something to look forward to. And I will be going through some more Tool tutorials and little tips and tricks that you may not know that you can use the tool mod for. So I just felt like those columns framed that half wall quite nicely. I was going to use a signpost, but it just didn't really fit the vibe I was going for. I felt like it stood out a bit too much, so I found it really useful to be able to use the columns just to frame that wall a bit more and make it look like a bit of a sign. So now we are inside this build, and I'm just going around with trying to figure out the floor plan. It took me quite a while to sort of for it to come together, and I feel like that's probably down to the fact that this is now in the point of the build where I am very much in the midst of builder's block, and I just could not decide on how I wanted it to look. I still wasn't sure at this point whether or not it was going to be a house, or if it was going to be a tavern, or if it was going to be something else. And it wasn't until I sort of gave myself a stern talking to and said, hey, you know, you haven't got much time. Like, you really need to decide now what you're doing. I did also go onto the gallery and I had a look at some historical no CC artwork for this build as well, and I cannot remember the name of the user that I took these paintings from, but I will go into the game now and I will put the name of the person's ID on the screen for you. So if you do want to go and check out their gallery and all of their other artworks, then feel free to do that. I just felt like they were perfect for this build. They had like a range of historical pictures, so there was like some from medieval times, some from Victorian times, some from like, you know, the 50s. I just thought it was such an awesome collection of pictures, and the best thing about it is that they were all actual Sims just dressed up. And I have a problem when it comes to like no CC artwork. I don't like it looking too realistic. Like, I want it to fit with the Sims kind of vibe. And so when I was trying to find artwork to go for the inside this build, everything I was finding was just realistic and not quite what I wanted, if that makes any kind of sense. But when I came across this person's gallery, I was just like, oh, this is perfect, this is just what I want. So I will make sure to go and leave their username in the description box down below, so please do go and check that out and look at the options they've got for no CC artwork. So here's where I basically decided, yeah, this is going to be a tavern. I'm gonna take the easy way out and just turn it into a pub, because we all know that those medieval people love their beer and their ales, so it was a kind of no-brainer when it came to decorating this build. I am currently in the bathroom and I am just trying to figure out what the best objects to use for this build was going to be, because I didn't want it to look like it was a medieval build that had been like renovated and turned into a kind of modern build. I wanted everything to feel like it was literally the 1200s, you know? So I did go for the toilet that you can make yourself with the woodworking career. I never use that, so it was quite awesome to be able to use that in this build. And I really struggled with like the seating for this build, and I really didn't know how many tables I wanted to use, and in the end it's probably not that spacious. I feel like maybe some of these tables won't actually work. I don't know. I haven't play tested this, to be honest, so you're just gonna have to download and go for it and see how it works. But yeah, I am just putting down some tables and chairs now. So that's pretty much it from me today, guys. I'm just going around now and putting in a few more last minute decorational objects and flower pots, and also the suit of armour, which I felt like just tied this whole thing off and made it perfect for the medieval theme. But basically the screenshots are coming up very shortly. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do remember to give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to click the bell to be notified every time I upload a video, and I will see you all next time. Bye!